Hello, my name's Max Olson, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make your own animal interaction zone in the great outdoors. Today with me is my wonderful cousin Louie, who's helping film.
Hey.
So why should you make one? What's the benefits? Well, for me personally, and for some others, working with animals and being outside in nature can reduce anxiety and stress and keep you calm. Another reason is because of the animal population in general. According to scientist Daryl Jones, feeding animals in specific times of the year and during specific weather incidents can help keep their animal population up and keep them from getting depopularized by eating unhealthy foods and from predators. So, we have 5 steps in order to show you how to do this today. Number 1 is location. Number 2 is food. Number 3 is water. Number 4 is construction. And number 5 is you. So let's start with step 1, location. As you can see, this is my backyard. And you might notice a few things hanging on trees or on the ground, and we'll get to more of that later. But it's important to remember that everyone has a different amount of space available to them. Don't try to do something huge and crazy if you don't have the space for it. It's very important to understand your own location and your own capabilities. Another important thing is cover. And when I say cover, I mean tree cover that will keep animals and the food away from rain, wind, and away from predators like hawks that can easily swoop down to grab them. Places you definitely do not want to have this are near windows, near streets, and near other people. Doing this will decrease the possibility of animals being hit or interacted with by cars and other animals. So, now that we've talked about location, I think it's important to move on to step 2. So let's head over here. We're going to talk about food next. And food's a really important topic for a few reasons. One is what food to use, what's good and what's bad. Well, right here, I have wild bird seed. I use this every single time, and it's really inexpensive. You may be concerned about price, and I assure you that this will not only last you weeks and weeks, but it is very, very cheap and inexpensive. It's a mix of sunflower seeds and other seeds and black oil seeds, and birds and squirrels and chipmunks, they all love this. They also really enjoy eating fruits. So cut them up, don't put them out whole. You want to cut them up or put out small fruits like grapes and blueberries. However, you do not want to feed animals human food, such as bread, buns, cheese, and you can think of probably a lot more than I can. But feeding animals food that they weren't grown up or weren't born being able to eat can cause them to get extremely sick and potentially die. So you gotta make sure you're using food that is made for animal consumption. How much food should you put out? Well, that depends on how much animals are in your area. I can see about 30 animals plus a day, so I use a lot of food and actually go through this bag quite quickly. But you at the beginning may only have 1 to 3 animals, so only a scoop or a handful or 2 is enough. You don't want to overdo it. And that's extremely important to remember, because overfeeding an animal can also cause a lot of problems. And according to the Humane Society of the United States, feeding animals throughout the entire year is actually not necessary. The only time that is really important is during harsh weather temperatures and late winter and early spring, when food sources such as natural seeds and fruits are less abundant. So now we can move on to step 3, which is the water. And you may be thinking water is self-explanatory, and you'd be right. Just like humans, animals need water too, and providing a source of water is extremely important for them. But where should you put water? If you have a big backyard like this, having something large and round is very important to keep water in and contained. Birds and animals will land up on here, drink some water, and then go about their business. Remember though, if you're going to be using something that isn't ceramic or stone or wood, you're going to want to try to clean it every so often. I do clean this on occasion and fill it up, probably about every 4 days, but that's also again going to depend on the amount of animals you have in your area. So now we can move on to step 4, which is construction. So with construction, I'm going to take you step by step and in each individual spot that I have in my backyard to show you what works and what is probably right for the area you might be in. So we're going to come and we're going to walk over here. Now in this area, I have a few things. I have a wheelbarrow right here. In this wheelbarrow, I'll take a few handfuls of food and I toss it in there. This leaves open area for a large swarm of birds or flock of birds to come and sit in here to eat while other animals do their eating in other locations, such as right here. You wouldn't think that a pile of sticks works, but it works really, really well. Chipmunks and other small birds are able to get in there and get food that other larger animals can't get. So that way I can provide food for both sizes of animals without actually causing any animals to fight over it. Animals that you might see right over here that we're going to go to in a moment are these logs. These logs, I just lay food right on top, and I've seen everything from bunnies to squirrels to chipmunks to birds come and land right on this stub and eat it. Now we're going to move on to this. And this is the weirdest addition I have in my backyard. This is a punching bag. Now granted, punching bags are expensive, and I didn't buy this for bird feeding, but it got a little hole one time and it just wasn't worth using anymore for punching. So I put it out here and I hung it, and it's worked really well. I put seeds right here on top, and birds come and they'll land on these strings and they'll latch on with their hands and they'll jump down and eat food out of here. This helps keep them elevated, away from land predators, and gives them a source of mobility that's easier than having to climb through sticks and shrubs over there, which are for even smaller animals. One of my favorite things, however, are these. Now, I didn't build this, but you are more than happy to try to build one for yourself if you like to construct. I bought this on Etsy, and you can find tons of mini picnic tables there too. Animals will come and they'll sit on the little benches, or they'll sit right on the table and they'll eat the food that I put out. Now, most often I'm putting out seeds, but sometimes I put out fruit as well, and though you can also put on the table. I have a second picnic table, mainly because, like I said at the beginning, I have a lot of animals, so I have to find different spaces to put them all in, because you don't want to have animals all crowd in one spot. That's called animal crowding, and when animals do that, they can become more aggressive and hostile towards each other, and that will lead directly to not only animals hurting each other, but to animals going away to find other food. So it's the opposite of what you actually want. Right here, we have a mini tire swing. These are again for small birds. If you have and are starting to build up a lot of animals like I do, you're going to notice that big birds and big animals such as squirrels jump in areas where there is a lot of food, and they prevent the small birds from getting in there. Big animals never come on this, so it's a perfect spot for the small animals such as chickadees and nuthatches to get food without competition. Lastly, we're going to talk about the ground, because you wouldn't think it for birds, but some birds also need to be fed on the ground, such as mourning doves. You'll see them a lot in the morning kind of walking on the ground, stumbling their way through the grass, and I see them picking at this log a lot. I'll lay seeds out just like I do in all the other sections, and it works perfectly, especially for squirrels too, which tend to come over here and eat. Now, with everything that I've talked about so far, it's extremely, extremely important to think about our next step, and that's step 5, which is you. According to Harvard Health Publishing, being outside and being in nature in general will not only decrease high blood pressure, but it will easily help reduce the amount of anxiety, stress, and depression someone can have. Now, during this whole tour, it may have looked like a lot, and it may have been something that has caused you to feel overwhelmed. But only do what you are comfortable doing. Don't feel like you have to do this huge amount of stuff that I do. I love animals and working with them, so that's why I do that. But you have to make sure you're doing what you are comfortable with. If that means you only have one feeder, then that's what you're going to have, and that's perfectly fine. Now, if you do want to do something large like I'm doing, that's awesome, but there's a lot of things you got to keep in mind. Let's start with safety. Animals are wild creatures, and you have to be conscious of that. If an animal comes close to you, or you're even trying to interact with it to get it to land on your hand, you have to be super careful that you stay calm at all times. Staying calm is important not only to protect yourself from getting bit or scratched, but to protect the animals. Sudden jolts or movements can cause you to either squeeze your hand, hurting the animal, or it can cause the animal to be fearful and then bite you. So, when you're sitting outside, enjoying nature, remember these steps. Remember that that's important, because we don't want animals to get hurt, and we don't want you to get hurt. Lastly, in terms of safety, animals can carry disease. So when you're doing this, remember to wash your hands when you're done, and not to talk too much about your experiences with small kids, because they might want to go out and try it, and we don't want them to get sick. So you wash your hands, you keep safe, you do what's comfortable with you, and you enjoy yourself. If you don't enjoy it, then don't do it. But I enjoy it. It keeps me calm, keeps me stress-free, and I'm helping the animals grow in population and in happiness. And the longer you do it, the more comfortable they get with you. So to conclude, I want to say, go ahead, experience this on your own, be creative. You don't have to buy expensive birdhouses. You don't have to buy expensive food to give animals. It's very affordable, and it's very easy to create your own animal interaction environment. We talked about location, where you're going to have it and what space you have available. We talked about food, what you should and what you shouldn't use. We talked about water and why it's important to give animals hydration and to keep them hydrated. And lastly, step 5, which is you. Remember all the things that I said that are important in the you category. You are the most important part of this. Even though we're talking about animals and what they want and what they need and their level of comfort, you have to be comfortable too. Because if you're not, they won't be. And the whole experience will not be worth it. That I can promise you. Patience, patience, patience. You'll need a lot of it if you want this to succeed. But I believe that you can. Now, concluding after the video, you're going to see some clips of what this animal experience interaction that I gave you a tour of actually looks like with animals in it. Me walking around talking isn't exactly their favorite environment. It can scare them a little bit. And it was honestly hard for me to do that because I'm so used to being calm around them. But I think it was important to share this information with you. And I hope you found it valid and useful for your own life. So go out there, make your own animal experience, take some pictures, and good luck.